My name is Robert.
And how long you live in Russia?
I've been in Russia for about 4 years, or maybe 5.
Is there a really bias against foreigners in Russia?
I don't think there is a bias against foreigners in Russia. There were very few times when I might have felt myself uncomfortable, but I think that the contrary is true, that actually people are very interested about Russians, about foreigners. And I think that being a foreigner in Russia is actually more like a privilege. For me, it has been a very uplifting experience to live in Russia as a foreigner.
Is it possible to make friends among colleagues in Russia?
I usually divide work and private life, but with many of the people who I got to know in Russia, I'm on very good terms. I enjoy working with them. And usually, as I'm a foreigner in Russia, those who are in the same shoes, the other foreigners, we organize very often dinners, or we go to, I don't know, visit some places in Moscow. So that is very interesting. The only thing, maybe it's even like a self-protecting mechanism why we didn't form very deep relationships, because there are people who come here for a year, some for 2, and then they go. So it's a pity when they leave, kind of a part of you is leaving with them.
What services could you use in Russia?
I use a lot of services in Russia. I like to use Yandex. They have their taxi service, their map service. I like to use car sharing. I think it's a really brilliant idea. I don't have my own car, but I can rent a car. Luckily, where I live, I can rent cars from that area, and it's very comfortable. I can just take a car at point A, drive somewhere and leave the car there, and I only pay for the times being used. Other services, internet, telephone, and I have to say that services are better in Russia than in Europe, because, for example, I have unlimited internet for a certain amount of fee, and when I traveled now, I was in Europe a couple of weeks ago, a limited amount of internet is more expensive than unlimited in Russia, so services are good.
Is it so cold in Russia in winter?
Not this winter. I like cold. I used to live on the Arctic Circle, so I think the coldest temperature I've experienced was -41 with wind chill. So I think I know what cold is. I like Russia for being a cold country. I wish that this winter was a bit colder and we would have more snow.
What is the weather in Russia in summer?
It depends on. I haven't spent here that many summers, I think 4 summers. And some of them were really extremely sunny, and that was great. Others were more rainy.
What kind of gifts Russians present each other for holidays?
Something that was surprising for me is that men can receive bouquets. For me, that was something completely new. Otherwise, I think that basically the same as in Europe, perfume, some beauty products, maybe some useful items like socks, pullover, trousers, sweets, and jewelry. Of course, it's a classic for women.
Mm-hmm. How much does politics affect your life in Russia?
I don't think it affects my life too much. However, something that I faced before I moved here, I remember there were people who were asking me, am I serious about moving to Russia? It's a dictatorship, and do I want to live here? And I said, look, I've been there, I've experienced it, and I think that what European media suggests and world media in general is like a big percentage of it is not true. Sanctions against Russia affect me because there are some wines that I like and I can't get them anymore. Parmesan cheese I really miss. But Russian agriculture developed greatly in the past 4 years, so actually there are really delicious cheese in Russia, and I think that on a grand scale my life is not really affected by politics.
What are the Russian children like?
Russian children are great, and some Russian children are greater. I have a child of my own. She's half Russian, half Hungarian, And I think that children are active, they like to play, they like to run, they share their stuff, sometimes they don't want to share, they do the opposite. Teaching children has been a very interesting experience. There were groups that I absolutely adored, there were groups that were a bit more difficult to handle, but I think it depends on personal relationships. There are people who you come along with, there are other people who it's a bit more difficult, so it's like a lottery, but I would say that most of the time I've been very successful with very lucky with getting the right people to teach.
What can you spend money on in Russia?
I don't think there is, except good Parmesano cheese, there is not much you can't buy. I think that money can buy everything here in Russia. I also read an article that Russia is one of the cheapest, or Moscow is one of the cheapest cities in the world to get luxury. That's a good thing if someone is looking for it. I usually spend my money on things that give me an experience. I like memories, and for me it's something important that if I spend money on something, I will remember it for a long time. I rather invest into memories rather than objects.
Mm-hmm. How much the products cost?
I think that they are a couple, 1.5 or 2 weeks ago I was in Amsterdam. I wouldn't say there's too much difference between the prices. I think that those prices of products, for example, food, fresh produce, they might be cheaper and they might be better quality. I think Russia doesn't support genetically modified products. So I think it's like every other world city. It's not cheap and not too expensive.
What brands of Russian products do you like?
Чистая линия, they have excellent ice cream. I also like Tan from them, but they have a problem. Whenever I open it, it always explodes. I can't open it so it doesn't spill over. There are, well, some service companies. I like Yandex, Bielka Car. There are beauty products. I think it's a Natura Sibirica, something like that. And well, that's what I can think of right now.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
What things do you like in Russia? What did you forget to take? It's two questions.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what are the things that I like in Russia? I think my parents, definitely. I would like to see them more often. I would be happy if there is more sun, because where I'm from, Budapest, it's a pretty sunny city. Otherwise, there is not really anything. I'm surrounded by my family here. I'm surrounded by good friends. So I think that's all what men can wish for. What are things that I forgot to take with me? I don't think that really ever I've had this problem that I forgot to take something. If you have your credit card, if you have your loved ones with you, that's pretty much it. Yeah.
Okay. How much does the culture of communication in Russia differ from your country?
It's a good question. I don't think that it's actually that much different, because Hungary used to be in the East Bloc, as they say it in politics. So I think that culture is relatively close to what I experienced in during my life. There was something that I noticed. Russians have an imperialistic worldview. They know that their country is huge and they are proud of it, and they are willing to talk about it and share it with everyone. So that's something that I noticed, but it's not something intimidating. It's just they are proud of their country and that it's the biggest country in the world, and I see no problem with it.
Is it important for your employer to help you adapt?
I think it is important for any employer to adapt and to help people adapt, because that can help people to get up to speed. When I started to work for ILS, I was offered straight away quite a large amount of hours, and that actually helped me to get up to speed pretty quickly. I wasn't afraid of communicating, so it helped me very much in teaching. Whenever I had a question, I always knew who are the people to turn to, and they could point me to the right direction or give me the information themselves. But of course, when you come, Russian people are not going to come to you and say, is there something I can help you with? If you have a question, share it. Say what you need to know and you will get the answers.
How does Russia differ most from your home country?
I think the climate is somewhat colder and rainier. Style of driving is different. I think here it's more dynamic. And I think the idea of living in Moscow, it's a very dynamic city. Someone told me once that it's not like swimming with the dolphins, it's racing against the sharks. And I don't think it's that dramatic, but I think that there is certain truth in it. If you are a dynamic person, if you want to grow, if you want to develop, this is a place for you, and you need to put your effort and your part in it. Where I'm from, Budapest, is what I miss is actually cafe culture, that you can, after work, you can go to the city center, sit outside. It's partially not possible because of the weather, partially not possible because the city where I live is not such a big city and we don't have that many cafes outside. However, in the past couple of years it's been improving and that makes me very happy.
Are Russians reliable and responsible people?
I think that those Russians I met are reliable and they are responsible. I really didn't have too much negative experience with it. I think that maybe for Russian people it's hard to say yes, but once they do, you can count on it. Yeah, the only negative experience I had when we had to make a refurbishment, and the person who put the wallpaper on the wall was not maybe the best master of his craft, and it didn't look that good. But then we agreed that it's going to be redone, so I didn't have to pay for it, and it turned out to be all right.
Do you know your neighbors?
I know. The neighbor next to me is a very quiet person. The neighbor above me is a very loud person. They have a dog that runs up and down, and it recently gave birth to 6 more dogs. So it usually starts barking, and now they start barking when I put my daughter to sleep. That's been causing some headache. And I think the neighbor below me is the most patient one, because when my daughter plays and makes noise, I never heard a complaint. And that can be, I think, tough time for him. So I don't know them by the name, but I know them, I welcome them. You say hi and goodbye to each other.
Do you know any Russian superstition? Tell us about that.
I had the chance to learn, I didn't have to read about them. I traveled quite a bit in Russia, and I know that before Russians start traveling, they sit down and they wait for a while. I also know that when we have guests, we shouldn't throw away the garbage after they left. When you leave your apartment and you forgot something, you can come back, but you have to show your tongue to the mirror or have to sit down. There is also another superstition that you can't whistle inside your home. And that's actually something I did, and my wife said, like, stop it, because if you whistle, it's your money goes away. And you don't give anything over the threshold. And one more thing, this it's very interesting. When 2 men want to shake hands, they have to do it either по-зимнему, which means like winter style, and they don't have to take off their gloves, or both of them have to take off their gloves.
How do Russians celebrate corporate events?
Well, we celebrate like a rock star. We usually have different kind of events. Some of them are organized in restaurants, some of them are organized at outdoor places, some of them are organized on the boat. And actually, so far, that's been my favorite, because Moscow is a great, beautiful city. So when we were able to navigate across the city on the Moscow River, the panorama is just beautiful. And you start at sunset, you return during the night, so you can see the city really in its best view. And usually there's a lot of food, there are drinks, a lot of dancing, some competitions, and some speeches, so they are interesting.
Do you need to use a dress code in Russia for going to a restaurant to visit or to work?
I think it depends on the person, it depends on the place where I go. I like to dress according to the event. So if we go to a restaurant that is more friendly and laid back, then maybe a t-shirt is fine. If we go to a more up-class restaurant, then dressing up is required, in my opinion. I noticed that women are really, really great with dressing up, and they look beautiful. And sometimes I don't think that it's required from men as much as it's required from women.
Is it true that Russians don't smile?
Maybe in the winter, but as soon as it's spring and the summer starts, people start smiling, and it's actually a wonderful feeling because you can see really all these people, positive emotions they are happy about the summer. There might be a reason why Russians don't smile in the winter. I once read that if you smile and it's colder than -30, your teeth crack. And I asked Russian, is it true? And they said, you know, when it's -30, you don't smile. So.
Do Russians drink a lot?
Not in my experience, not according to my experience. Moreover, I have friends who don't drink at all. So I think that even if they drink, it's reasonable. We go and have a couple cocktails or open a bottle of red wine with the dinner. We drink some champagne. Nothing extravagant or nothing over the top.
What is ЖКХ?
If I'm not mistaken, it's the company that takes care of the building where people have their apartments.
What does a typical rush hour look like in Russia?
A typical rush hour can occur anytime, so it's not like only mornings or only evenings. I remember being stuck in a traffic jam at 1:30 in the night on MKAD, that is the ring road around Moscow. So it really can happen at time. What does it look like? If you're alone, you can listen to music, you can, I don't know, do different things. If you're with friends, well, then just chat longer than in usual. If you are not the driver, you can lay down and sleep.
What do you miss most?
I think that most I miss my parents, my friends. We communicate a lot over the phone, but still it's not the same as having real-life contact. There are bakeries that I miss from Budapest. They are, every morning they bake fresh products. There are plenty of them. You can choose. You can basically have your breakfast there or take it to home. I miss the places, cafes and bars that are outside, unique style, each of them. That's something that I truly miss.
Are you happy to be in Russia?
I think I'm very happy, yes. I'm happy to be here because I'm with my family. I have a very supportive circle of friends, and my Russian part of the family has been very helpful with me all the time. My daughter is here, my wife is here, so other than my parents and my sisters, basically I have got everything that I can wish for.
Do you like your work?
I do like my work. I think that, I don't know if it's a coincidence or it's planned. I think it's rather a coincidence. Every time I felt already comfortable with my work and kind of felt an urge to try something new, this company offered me something new. And right now I can honestly say that every day when I come to work, there is something that is new, something that I have not tried before. I learn something new, so it's like going to university, but I get paid for it. And that is a great feeling. Also, I see the fruit of the work that we put into creating new things, and being part of a team where I can be an individual, but where I also need to contribute as a team player, is something that really suits my personality.
Do Russians speak English well?
Those people who surround me, they do. They really do. I also notice that when I go to smaller villages, when I travel, people don't really speak English there, but for that reason I try to better my Russian so I can get more information, I can understand better how they live, they can tell me their stories. But in general, those kids that come to our school, I can really see the progress. They might come without knowing anything, and by the time they leave, it's pretty amazing that they are able to express themselves so freely and with such an enthusiasm they are really, I would say, grown for life. So those skills that they got here at the school, they are very much translatable to real life practice.
Why do Russians take off their shoes indoor?
I think it has a very practical reason. By the way, it was not something new for me. I know that there are foreigners to whom it appeared as a surprise. I think the practical reason is that when it's winter and your shoes are not the cleanest, then you take it off straight away.
How best to contact a stranger on the street in Russia if you need to ask something?
I think the best way to go about it is try some phrase in Russian, like «извините», «можете мне, пожалуйста, помогать?» Probably they will hear your accent, so as soon as they notice that you're a foreigner, if they speak English, they might just switch to English to make your life easier. If they don't speak English, then probably they are going to start speaking slower, so to, again, help you a little bit out.
Great, thank you very much.
Thanks a lot.